People in this region tend to follow a religion, or I don't even know if you could classify it as a religion, but because it's not super like organized, but animism. So everything has a spirit, everything has a place in the universe. The universe is full of life and all of this stuff. So they use shamans. Instead of ministers preaching to them, they use shamans to help them keep connected to nature, keep one with the universe. That's kind of hard to do when there's massive armies battling in your area, and regional warlords and all of this stuff. Now, the Hmong helped U.S. troops control. They're very, very anti-communist. They're helping U.S. troops move stuff in and out of the area. They were kind of like guerrilla fighters and things like that. So when the United States left the area, they began pulling people out of the country. They get on the helicopter. All that stuff. They were evacuating people. They were moving people out of the country. So you had massive amounts of people from Laos, Cambodia. You had specifically the Hmong people coming over as well. And they didn't fly a helicopter the whole way. But anyways, they come over. But when they get here, instead of, you know how we have Chinatown and you have like Harlem and you have these areas where ethnic groups tend, Little Italy, you have these places where ethnic groups tend to congregate. America was bringing these people from Southeast Asia to America and then just shipping them off to different cities. So they got spread out across 53 different cities. The Hmong language wasn't even written down until like 4 years before they were coming to America. So they knew their culture, but no one else really knew how to deal with them. And then all of a sudden you're just taking 2-3 families, sending them to San Antonio, 2-3 families, sending them to Hood River. You're just moving people around. So they're completely cut off from their community, from anyone else who speaks their language. They started to coalesce in parts of California. I think Fresno has a large population. I know Sacramento does. Minneapolis has a large Hmong population now. But it took a while for them to kind of coalesce. Kind of hard to pick up the phone and call your people if you don't know their phone number. You don't even know what state they're in. This is what the people who are suffering from this believe. When they're not able to conduct their religious... This is so bizarre. In their beliefs, when they're not able to conduct their religious practices, they are visited by a Dao Cha. Now, a Dao Cha is basically a nightmare. It's a personification of a nightmare. We have the old hag syndrome where it's the sleep paralysis and something sits on your chest. You can't breathe. And it's a scary nightmare. It causes sleep paralysis and things like that, but it doesn't kill you. The Dao Cha, though, will. It takes the form that there's very, very little information on this in English. It's basically a demon that's a jealous woman, and that's all I could find. I tried looking for like more history on this person, super obscure. Dao Cha. Some people think that if you dress up, if you're male and what's weird too, is that there's only been one female victim of this sudden unexpected nocturnal death syndrome. Only one female victim recorded. Everyone else has been dudes. The Dao Cha is this jealous woman spirit, and some people believe if you dress up like a woman before you go to bed, she won't come after you because she thinks you're a girl. And if you're not practicing your spiritual workings every single day, the Dao Cha will notice that and come to punish you. Like, it follows, it'll slowly walk to find you. It can sense that you're not doing what you need to be doing. But you have a bit of time. Because first you'll realize, I'm not really doing what I need to be doing spiritually. I'm not doing my workings. I'm not worshiping the earth and the spirit as I should. You go to your shaman, and the shaman gets you back on the course, does some rituals, helps purify you, gets you back into where you need to be. But let's say you don't get to the shaman right away. You'll start to have these nightmares, and they'll start to get progressively worse. And you know that these nightmares will lead to your death. You know that whatever you're dreaming about is the Dao Cha coming towards you. So at that point, you really need to go to a shaman and get blessed and have him work his magic, literally around you, protect you, and get you back to follow your religious beliefs. But you have a culture that's been evacuated from one continent, dropped on another, and spread out across 53 cities. You don't know where the shaman is. You have no way to find anyone. And that's not me being like poetically like, ooh, look how spooky. They're saying, this is what happened. We have to follow our beliefs or this demon will kill us in our sleep. And we don't know where the shamans are. We got pushed all over the country and we couldn't find our religious leaders. So we were dying off at 43 to 96 deaths per 100,000. Massive death rate. Now, like I said, they've started to coalesce into certain areas. So you would have a peak of these demonic deaths, and then as they started to reconfigure their culture and their society and were able to come together, you would know where the shaman was. Someone would be like, oh, he's in Minneapolis. And it's not just one, you have hundreds of them, but you know what I mean? Like, if you're dropped off in the middle of San Luis Obispo, you're not going to know anywhere where there's a shaman. So to them, to the Southeast Asian communities that are suffering from this or suffered from it, again, there's nothing saying then it stopped. There's no resources saying it only happened right after Vietnam War. They're saying it peaked. There's nothing saying it's over with. They're saying, listen, we know it's not sudden. We know it's coming. It's not unexpected because we're not following our religion. And the medical community goes, well, maybe it's this, maybe it's this, maybe it's this, maybe it's this. And these young men just were dying. Part of me thinks that there has to be a medical reason for this. Some sort of genetic trigger in people from that region of the world. It happens over there as well, but not as high, which could be we don't have the record keeping, we don't have the medical facilities or the will to go over there and study this stuff. Or it could be that over there, they follow the religion a little closer. When they start having those symptoms, those bad dreams, they go, oh, better go pray to a bunch of vines or whatever. But they don't have that opportunity here. We cover a lot of weird beliefs on this show. And the last article I read up about this said it's psychosomatic. It's that people believe in this religion so much that when they start to fall behind in it, they think it can kill them, and it kills them. Case closed. It's all mental. And we cover a lot of weird beliefs. We cover a lot of cryptids. We cover a lot of demons and paranormal stuff. But I think this one rings true, creepily enough. It rings a little true. Don't you think? Like, it just seems like everything slots together so well. All the information I've talked about, it's all in the show notes. There's a ton of them. There have been a lot of resources dedicated to finding out what's killing these Southeast Asian men. But when it gets to the demon stuff, the trail just goes cold. We talk about angels and demons. We talk about demonic possession. We had that episode yesterday. We talk about all of this stuff. And people go, oh, that's faith, or, that's real, or, whatever. It's fake, it's a mental illness, all that stuff. But when we have a repetitive, verifiable cause of death, and people going, this is why it's caused. It's because of this paranormal event. At what point does the scientific community just keep shaking its head and going, no, that's impossible? And then again, even if they admitted it was true, what would you do about it? How would society have to restructure itself if they said, yes, if you are a Southeast Asian man and you don't pray to plants, you will be killed by a demon woman? Next up on the news, 49ers had a passing play. I don't know anything about football, but you know what I mean? Like, if that was ever reported as fact, here's the thing. There's more evidence about this than there is evidence for Bigfoot. There's a cause and effect relationship here. There's verifiable, all these, there's just way more stuff to go on with this story. But knowing that Freddy Krueger is actually based on a real event, a real reoccurring event, before you shut your lights off and go to sleep tonight, think about that creepy story you heard as a kid, that scary movie you saw, that urban legend you heard once and just dismissed as terrifying but not true. Think of those before you close your eyes. And then go, I wonder if that one was true too. DeadRabbitRadio@gmail.com is going to be our email address. You can also hit us up at Facebook.com/DeadRabbitRadio. Twitter is @JasonOCarpenter. Dead Rabbit Radio is the daily paranormal conspiracy and true crime podcast. You don't have to listen to it every day, but I'm glad you listened to it today. Have a great one, guys. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio Classics, where we listen to a classic episode with a new intro. Now, I love this episode. This episode combines two things I really like. One, the first story I think is funny. It's a story of a woman. I'm not going to spoil the story. I just think it's a funny story. I think it works. I don't want to give anything away, but I like that. And then the second story, the first story is me basically reading an article, or quoting an article would be a better way to say it. and debunking it, and basically saying that's why I don't think this would work. And I find that particularly humorous, and I think it's important to do. I think a lot of podcast hosts or YouTubers, however you want to say it, either believe in too much stuff or they don't believe in it, but they act like they do because they know it'll get views. And that's been a thing on this show. There have been multiple times in the run of this show where I've realized if I acted like I believed in this stuff, the audience would be much bigger. But you know what? I want my audience to be bigger, but I want my audience to be you guys bigger. I want my audience to be smart, funny, very handsome, very charming people. Because you guys rock. You guys really are awesome. And you guys are the audience that I want. Yes. Do I want a bigger audience? Of course. You always want a bigger audience. But I want you guys. So I don't want to go off and be saying stuff that I don't believe is true. So that's why I like this first story. Because it's basically saying we can have fun with the paranormal, but we don't have to believe everything we read about this stuff. And that's why I love kind of talking about, I mentioned on yesterday's Classics episode about, I like finding these weirdo cults, these weird people, and kind of just going through their belief system and kind of shredding it to pieces, or debunking it in an entertaining way, because we can't just accept, just because someone goes, ta-da, I'm a witch! A lot of people who believe this stuff will believe everything you say. And we're not like that. I think the audience of the show isn't like that, and I think you guys appreciate it. So the first is what I think the other strength of the show is. And again, I always feel like these intros kind of toot my horn a bit, but they're my favorite episodes for a reason. Obviously, I'm cherry picking what I think are the best episodes. The first story is funny. The second story is chilling, and I think it's probably one of the better researched stories. I was leaving stuff out of this episode. I had tons of notes on this story because, again, so the first story, a woman's making an extraordinary claim and no evidence whatsoever to back it up. The second story, I'm making an extraordinary claim that the story of the Pied Piper of Hamelin, the dude with the flute that lures a bunch of children out to the mountains, is based on a true story. And knowing that old nursery rhyme, fairy tale, however you want to put it, that we've all heard, trying to say that was based on a true story, I had to back it up. Yesterday's episode saying Freddy Krueger based on a true demon, my fear was finding the links. Because again, you guys are an awesome audience. I mentioned earlier people complaining about the bricks being wrong and with the stupid story about the college. To me, that was a quibbling detail, but who cares where the bricks were from? And now, honestly, I was right on the bricks thing, so it doesn't matter. But the point is that when you make the bricks, whatever, that's not an extraordinary claim. When I'm saying stuff like the Pied Piper of Hamelin is based on a true story, I had to bring my A game. So I really had to research that. And that was one that I had learned pretty recently when I was doing this episode. And I think I say in the episode, the whole Too Good to Be True week was based around the idea of the Pied Piper of Hamelin's based on a true story. That was completely shocking to me. So we go into old town records. We look at the history of the town. I really, really love the research, and the story itself is creepy. So I think this has I've talked about this on a couple times. I like episodes that combine the humor and combine the facts. And I think this episode does that really, really well. And it's spooky. It's a spooky episode. After the first part where we're kind of laughing at this woman, the second part is just like, what happened to these kids? So see if you can figure out that answer. See if you can finally solve the mystery of what happened to all those children as you listen to episode 221, the terrifying true tale of the Pied Piper of Hamelin. A 20-minute follow-up discussion of the Phantom of the Opera. No, I'm just joking. We're done with that one. A woman finds physical proof that she jumped between dimensions. And then we finish off Too Good to Be True with the story that actually started the idea for the theme. The Pied Piper of Hamelin is a classic tale of revenge. But, according to historical documents, someone did go into the town of Hamelin and 130 kids disappeared forever. Today on Dead Rabbit Radio.